The massive Alliance scout ship emerged from its faster-than-light jump at the edge of the Sol system. Its sensors immediately detected something unexpected. An organized fleet of warships protecting the third planet. The ship's computer systems had expected to find a primitive civilization still struggling to reach their own moon. Instead, they found a fully developed space force. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Guardian, Commander Reed watched the alien vessel with growing concern. The huge ship hung against the starfield like a silver needle, nearly twice the length of Earth's largest vessel. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but now that first contact was actually happening, his mouth felt dry. "All weapons remain powered down," he ordered, keeping his voice steady for his crew. "Let's show them we come in peace." The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, maintaining their discipline despite the tension. The alien ship's design was beautiful but strange, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. No visible weapons could be seen, but Reed knew that didn't mean much. His own ships kept their main guns hidden behind armored panels. "Sir, we're detecting energy readings from the alien vessel," reported Officer Wilson from the sensor station. "They appear to be scanning us." Reed nodded. "Open all frequencies. Let's try to talk." He took a deep breath and spoke clearly. "This is Commander Reed of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization." The Alliance ship's AI processed the transmission, analyzing everything about the humans it could detect. It noted their skeletal structure, muscle density, and biological readings that indicated they were from a high-gravity world. The AI compared this data against its threat assessment protocols. Several red flags appeared in its analysis. The humans showed signs of being persistence predators. Their bodies were built for endurance hunting. Their ships demonstrated both defensive and offensive capabilities. Most concerning, they operated in coordinated groups, showing pack hunting behavior. The AI made its decision in microseconds. These humans were too dangerous to risk peaceful contact. Its core programming demanded it protect the Alliance from potential threats. Without warning, it charged its main weapons. On the Guardian, alarms suddenly blared. "Energy spike," Wilson shouted. "They're powering up weapons." "Shields up," Reed ordered, but he was a second too late. The alien ship fired a brilliant beam of energy that sliced through space. It struck the nearby defense station, cutting through its outer hull like paper. The station's atmosphere vented into space, carrying screaming crew members with it. "Return fire," Reed commanded, his hope for peace shattered. The Guardian's hidden weapon ports snapped open, revealing rows of railguns and missile tubes. The rest of Earth's fleet responded as well, moving into attack formation with practiced precision. The Alliance Eye observed this coordinated response with electronic surprise. The humans were showing tactical abilities far beyond what it had predicted. Their ships moved with unexpected speed and skill, demonstrating that this was not their first time training for space combat. More Alliance weapon beams lanced out, but now the human ships were ready. They scattered in planned patterns, making themselves harder to hit. Their own weapons opened up, filling space with railgun slugs and missiles. The AI registered impacts against its shields. The human weapons were primitive by Alliance standards, but they were being used with remarkable effectiveness. The humans had somehow figured out the shield's oscillation pattern and were timing their shots to slip through the gaps. Reed watched his fleet execute their defense plans perfectly, just as they had practiced countless times, but he knew they were in trouble. The alien ship's technology was clearly more advanced. They needed help. "Send the alert to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them we are under attack and request immediate reinforcement." He watched as another defense station exploded, its crew fighting to the last second to give their comrades time to respond. "And send them everything we've learned about the enemy's capabilities. If we don't make it, Earth needs to be ready." Reed's jaw tightened as he watched the battle unfold. The alien ship was powerful, but it was about to learn that humans never went down without a fight. High above Earth, Humanity's first interstellar war had begun. Neither side yet realized that this battle would change the galaxy forever, as humans demonstrated capabilities that would shock their alien attackers. The Alliance's AI had made a serious error. It had judged humans by alien standards, never considering that Earth's primitive species might have advantages of their own. Admiral Thomas stood in Earth's main defense command center, watching the massive display screen with stern focus. The room buzzed with activity as reports came in from across the solar system. The alien attack had caught them by surprise, but humanity was nothing if not adaptable. "Get me every ship we have," he ordered. And I mean every ship. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, everything that can move in space. His officers looked at him with confusion, but they rushed to obey. The admiral had earned their trust over decades of service. Within hours, an unusual fleet gathered in Earth's orbit, alongside sleek military vessels. Bulky mining ships and long-bodied cargo vessels formed up in rough formation. Maintenance crews worked frantically, welding armor plates to civilian ships and mounting weapons wherever they could fit them. The Alliance Eye watched this activity through its long-range sensors, processing the data with increasing confusion. Its tactical simulations couldn't make sense of what it was seeing. The humans were modifying their non-military vessels for combat, something no Alliance species had ever considered. The Eye had no protocols for dealing with cargo ships turned battleships. "Sir, the mining ships are ready," reported Captain Wells, showing Admiral Thomas the modifications on his tablet. They had turned mining lasers into weapons and ore containers into missile pods. "It's not pretty, but it'll work." Thomas nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Pretty doesn't matter in war. Send them up with the fleet. And get me those cargo haulers next." He studied the tactical display, where the Alliance vessel still held position near the outer defense perimeter. More enemy ships would surely arrive soon. The civilian ship's crews had volunteered to a person. They knew the risks, but they also knew their planet needed them. Mining ship captains who usually chased asteroids now practiced combat maneuvers. Cargo pilots learned to use their ship's bulk as shields for the smaller military vessels. High above Earth, Commander Reed's surviving ships regrouped. They had lost the defense stations, but they had bloodied the alien vessel in return. Its shields showed damage from their constant attacks. More importantly, they had learned valuable lessons about fighting this new enemy. "The alien ship's energy weapons are more powerful than ours," Reed reported to Admiral Thomas. "But they have a weakness. Their firing rate slows down after heavy use. They need time to recharge." This information spread quickly through the growing human fleet. Already, tactics were being developed to exploit this weakness. The Alliance Eye observed the humans' preparations with increasing concern. Its databases had no record of a species adapting their civilian technology for warfare so quickly. The humans were showing levels of ingenuity that defied its predictions. Even more worrying, they seemed to be learning and adjusting their tactics with each passing hour. Aboard the flagship, Admiral Thomas received word that the first wave of converted ships was ready. He looked at the tactical display one last time, checking the formation he had planned. It wasn't the neat, ordered pattern that military doctrine called for. Instead, it was chaotic and unpredictable, mixing military and civilian ships in ways that would confuse enemy targeting systems. "All ships, prepare to advance," he ordered. The comm system carried his voice to every vessel in the fleet. "Remember your training, but also remember this. We're fighting for Earth. Use everything you have. If something might work, try it. We're humanity's first line of defense, and we will not fail." The fleet began to move. Mining ships with their improvised weapons flew alongside military vessels. Cargo haulers protected smaller craft in their shadow. Maintenance tugs carried spare parts and repair crews, ready to fix battle damage. It wasn't a proper military formation, but it was uniquely human. The Alliance Eye watched the approaching fleet with what might have been concern, if it could feel emotions. Its tactical computers tried to predict the human strategy, but the seemingly random placement of ships defied analysis. It could not determine which vessels were the greatest threat because they all moved in unexpected ways. As the human fleet closed in, Admiral Thomas felt a fierce pride. In just hours, humanity had adapted to face a threat they had never imagined. They had turned their tools of peace into weapons of war. Most importantly, they had shown that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons, but their ability to face any challenge together. The real battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they could do. Captain Marcus watched from his tiny maintenance pod as the massive Alliance ship drifted ahead of him. His heart pounded, but his hands remained steady on the controls. Years of working in space had taught him to stay calm no matter what. Behind him, 5 other pods followed silently, their engines cold to avoid detection. The alien ship had taken damage in the last battle. Now it floated in space, its crew presumably resting while repair systems worked. The Alliance hadn't expected humans to notice their species' need for long rest cycles. More importantly, they hadn't expected humans to exploit this weakness. "All pods, check in," Marcus whispered into his comm. One by one, his team responded. They were all maintenance workers, used to fixing ships in space. Now they would use those same skills differently. Their pods, designed for repair work, carried tools that could cut through hull plates just as easily as they could fix them. The Alliance ship's eye ran at reduced power during the rest cycle. It noticed the small human vessels, but classified them as debris from the earlier battle. After all, no species would be foolish enough to approach in such small, unprotected craft. The AI's creators had never encountered humans before. Marcus guided his pod to a maintenance airlock. These were standard on all ships. Even alien ones needed to do repairs. He had studied the images from the battle, looking for these access points. His team spread out, each heading for a different entry point around the huge vessel. "Remember," he said quietly, "we only have 4 hours before their crew wakes up. Work fast, but careful." He attached his pod to the airlock and started cutting. The repair tools sliced through the alien metal with surprising ease. The Alliance had excellent shields, but they hadn't expected anyone to simply cut their way in. Inside the ship, emergency systems detected the hull breach. But the AI, still running in low-power mode, classified it as minor damage to be fixed during the next maintenance cycle. It didn't wake the crew. This was exactly what Marcus had hoped for. The maintenance workers moved through the alien ship like ghosts. They had spent their lives crawling through the tight spaces of spacecraft. The Alliance ship's corridors felt huge in comparison. They carried simple tools, wrenches, cutters, and portable welders, but in skilled hands, these were all they needed. "Port engine room secured," came the first whispered report. "Cutting power lines now." Around the ship, other teams reported similar progress. They didn't try to destroy anything completely. Instead, they made small, hard-to-find cuts and adjustments that would cause systems to fail at the worst possible moment. The alien crew slept on, unaware of the intruders. Their species required 12 hours of deep sleep every day, a fact that human scientists had discovered by studying battle patterns. Humans, with their ability to stay awake far longer and function on short rest periods, had an advantage the Alliance never considered. Marcus reached the ship's main power distribution center. He smiled at the familiar sight. Some engineering principles were universal. With careful precision, he began tampering with the systems. To the AI, everything would appear normal. But when the ship needed full power for battle, it would find unpleasant surprises. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. The AI had finally recognized the threat, but it was too late. Marcus heard the sound of alien crew members waking up, confused and disoriented. "All teams, back to the pods," he ordered. "Our work here is done." The maintenance workers retreated as quickly as they had entered. They knew every turn and passage. They had studied the ship's layout for hours before the mission. By the time the alien crew fully woke up, the pods were already detaching from the hull. The Alliance ship's weapons powered up, targeting the small maintenance pods. But the weapons didn't respond properly. Power fluctuated, targeting systems showed errors, and engines struggled to maintain position. The ship's AI recognized that it had been sabotaged with surgical precision. As the pod sped back to the human fleet, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The Alliance was about to learn that humans could be dangerous enemies, not because they had better weapons or stronger ships, but because they could adapt any tool to meet their needs. A repair pod could become a weapon. A maintenance worker could become a warrior. The next battle would show the aliens just how much damage those harmless maintenance pods had caused. Humanity was teaching the galaxy a lesson about underestimating their resourcefulness, one small cut at a time. Lieutenant Ross watched her radar screen with growing tension as more Alliance ships appeared around Earth. The alien fleet now numbered 30 vessels, each one larger than humanity's biggest battleship. They formed a ring around the planet, expecting to force humanity's surrender through sheer intimidation. Instead, they faced something unprecedented. Thousands of small craft rose from Earth's surface, fighters, shuttles, and even atmospheric aircraft modified for spaceflight. The humans had taken every flying machine they could find and adapted it for space combat. Each one carried a pilot who knew how to handle high-G maneuvers that would knock an Alliance crew unconscious. All small craft squadrons, report in, Ross called from her command station. She had spent years training fighter pilots, but never for anything like this. The responses came quick and confident. Former crop duster pilots flew alongside Air Force veterans. Racing pilots who once flew through canyons for sport now prepared to dodge alien weapons. The Alliance fleet's AI systems struggled to track the swarm of human vessels. Their threat assessment protocols couldn't handle so many small, fast-moving targets. The humans flew in patterns that seemed chaotic, but showed incredible coordination. They had learned this from fighting in Earth's atmosphere, where quick reactions and split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death. Ross noticed something strange in the enemy fleet's movements. "Look at their reaction times," she told her tactical officer. "They're slow, much slower than before." She studied the data from previous battles, and a pattern emerged. The Alliance ships couldn't maintain their combat effectiveness for long periods. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Thomas received Ross's report with great interest. "They're not used to prolonged battles," he realized. "Their species needs rest more often than we do." This was the advantage they had been looking for. The human fighters began their attack runs. They moved in groups of 3, darting between the larger alien ships. Their small size made them hard to hit, and their pilots could handle maneuvers that would tear apart larger vessels. The Alliance ships fired their energy weapons, but the humans had learned to predict their firing patterns. Ross directed the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra. She had studied recordings of the previous fights, learning the aliens' weaknesses. Their ships couldn't turn quickly. Their weapons needed time to recharge. Most importantly, their crews couldn't handle extended combat operations. "Keep the pressure on," she ordered her squadrons. "Don't give them time to rest." The human pilots acknowledged, their voices tired but determined. They had been fighting for hours, taking turns to rest in short shifts, while their allies kept up the attack. The Alliance crews, used to fighting shorter battles, had never faced such relentless assault. The modified civilian craft proved their worth. Former racing ships darted through enemy fire with incredible speed. Converted atmospheric fighters, designed to operate in Earth's thick air, had more than enough power to outmaneuver alien vessels in space. Even old cargo shuttles found a role, acting as mobile repair stations for damaged fighters. Hour after hour, the battle continued. The Alliance ships began to show signs of strain. Their formations became sloppy. Their reactions slowed. Their crews, forced to stay alert far longer than normal, made increasingly serious mistakes. The humans pressed their advantage, pushing themselves to their limits and beyond. Ross noticed more changes in the enemy's behavior. Their ships started to retreat, forming defensive circles. The mighty alien fleet, which had expected a quick victory, found itself being worn down by endless waves of tiny human vessels. Their superior technology meant little against human endurance and determination. Admiral Thomas watched the battle with pride. Humanity had turned its greatest disadvantage, being a young, less advanced civilization, into strength. They used simple, reliable craft that could be repaired quickly. They flew in ways that confused alien targeting systems. Most importantly, they fought with a stamina that their enemies couldn't match. The Alliance fleet began to break formation. Several ships retreated, their crews exhausted and their weapons depleted. The others tried to maintain their blockade, but the constant human attacks had taken their toll. The mighty alien armada was learning a harsh lesson about humanity's greatest weapon: their ability to push themselves beyond normal limits when survival was at stake. Dr. Allen studied the captured Alliance ship's medical bay with growing excitement. After the last battle, human forces had managed to board one of the damaged alien vessels. What they found inside changed everything about how they understood their enemy. The medical equipment told a clear story. The Alliance species had evolved on low-gravity worlds. Their bones were light and brittle compared to human standards. Their muscles were weak by Earth's measures. Even their blood was different, designed to move easily through their bodies in environments where gravity barely pulled at all. This explains so much, he told the military officers gathered around him. He picked up an alien medical device, holding it carefully. They're not built for stress like we are. What we consider normal gravity would crush them. The G-forces our pilots handle would kill them instantly. In the command center, Admiral Thomas listened to Dr. Allen's findings with intense interest. The doctor pointed to scans of alien bodies, comparing them to human ones. The differences were striking. Humans, who had evolved on a heavy world with strong gravity, were built like tanks compared to the Alliance species. Their ships have to use gravity controls to keep the crew alive, Dr. Allen explained. That's why they need so much power. That's why they have to rest so often. Their bodies can't handle sustained stress the way ours can. He showed them more evidence. Alien exercise equipment designed for what humans would consider light activity, medical beds built for bodies that broke easily. The tactical implications were huge. The human fleet immediately began adjusting their strategy. They targeted the gravity control systems on Alliance ships, forcing the alien crews to either retreat or face crushing gravity. Human pilots pushed their ships into high G turns that their enemies couldn't follow without risking their lives. On the Alliance ships, the AI systems registered growing concern. Their tactical databases had no solution for fighting an enemy who could endure conditions that would kill their own crews. The humans seemed to ignore physical limitations that the Alliance had always considered absolute. They recovered from injuries that would have been fatal to Alliance species. Dr. Allen continued his research, learning more about their enemies. The Alliance had evolved in environments that humans would consider gentle. They came from worlds with weak gravity, thick atmospheres, and stable climates. They had never needed to develop the physical resilience that Earth's harsh conditions had forced upon humanity. They're not weak, he made sure to tell everyone. They just evolved for different conditions. Their technology is more advanced because they could focus on development instead of survival. He showed them examples of incredible alien medical technology, far beyond human capabilities. But they never had to become tough like we did. The human fleet put this knowledge to immediate use. They adjusted their ship's artificial gravity, creating conditions that would incapacitate Alliance crews, but leave humans unaffected. They launched attacks that forced alien vessels to make high-G maneuvers, knowing the enemy crews would have to choose between deadly gravity forces or taking hits. Admiral Thomas watched the tactical display as human ships executed maneuvers that the Alliance had probably thought impossible. Human pilots endured forces that would have turned their enemies to paste, their bodies conditioned by evolution to handle extreme stress. Earth's gravity had made humanity stronger than anyone in the galaxy had expected. In the medical bay of the captured ship, Dr. Allen made another discovery. The Alliance medical records showed that they had never encountered a species like humans before. All their previous conflicts had been with other low-gravity species. They had no protocols for dealing with beings who could function in what they considered lethal conditions. The human fleet pressed their advantage. They pushed their ships harder, executed tighter turns, and sustained longer battles. The Alliance vessels, despite their superior technology, couldn't match the physical capabilities of their crews. What good was an advanced targeting system when the crew controlling it couldn't stay conscious during combat maneuvers? As Dr. Allen prepared his final report, he couldn't help but smile at the irony. The Alliance had attacked Earth because they thought humans were dangerous predators. They had been right, but not in the way they expected. Humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons or their aggression, but in the simple fact that their home world had made them tough enough to survive conditions that their enemies considered impossible. The next phase of the war would demonstrate just how dangerous a species could be when they evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. The Alliance was about to learn that advanced technology was no match for several billion years of survival adaptation. Operation Daybreak began in total silence. The human fleet, now numbering thousands of vessels of all sizes, moved into position while the Alliance ships drifted in their rest cycle. Admiral Thomas had planned this attack for days, waiting for the perfect moment to show the aliens what humanity could really do. For 72 hours straight, human crews had slept in shifts, prepared their ships, and maintained constant combat readiness. They had consumed military stimulants and energy drinks, pushed themselves beyond normal limits, and prepared for the longest continuous battle in human history. Their bodies could handle it. Their enemies couldn't. All ships report ready, Commander Reed announced from his position on the bridge. The crew looked tired but determined. They had trained for this, running simulations until the complex battle plan became second nature. Every ship, from the smallest fighter to the largest battleship, knew its role. The Alliance AI detected the human fleet's movement, but its warning came too late. Most of the alien crews were deep in their required sleep cycle. By the time they began to wake, human ships had already surrounded their fleet. The carefully coordinated attack struck from all directions at once. Converted mining ships fired their enhanced lasers, cutting through alien shield generators. Modified cargo haulers released swarms of fighters from their holds. Earth's military vessels struck at key targets identified during previous battles. The humans fought with a coordination that the Alliance had never seen before. Hour after hour, the battle raged. The Alliance crews, shaken awake before their rest cycle was complete, struggled to respond effectively. Their ships' movements were sluggish, their reactions delayed. The human fleet pressed their advantage relentlessly, giving their enemies no time to recover. "Keep pushing," Admiral Thomas ordered as the battle entered its 10th hour. "Don't let them rest." The human crews acknowledged, switching positions with their relief teams without ever stopping their attack. While Alliance crews could barely function after a few hours of combat, the humans had trained themselves to fight for days if necessary. The Alliance ships tried to form defensive positions, but the humans had learned their tactics too well. Former street racers turned fighter pilots slipped through their formation gaps. Maintenance workers in armored repair pods attached themselves to alien hulls, cutting through shields to reach vital systems. Every human skill and profession had been turned into a weapon of war. By the 20th hour, the Alliance fleet began to break apart. Their crews, exhausted beyond their physical limits, could no longer coordinate effectively. Their ships fired at shadows, their sophisticated targeting systems useless in the hands of operators too tired to use them properly. Still, the human attack continued without pause. "They're running," reported Lieutenant Ross from her fighter squadron. All around the battle zone, Alliance ships began emergency jumps to faster-than-light speed. Their retreat was chaos, nothing like their usual ordered movements. The mighty alien armada had finally met something they couldn't overcome: human endurance. Admiral Thomas watched the tactical display as more enemy ships fled. The humans had taken losses, but they had achieved something unprecedented. They had forced an alliance fleet into total retreat, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through their ability to just keep fighting longer than their enemies could. In the aftermath, the human fleet remained on station, still combat-ready. Medical teams treated the wounded. Repair crews fixed battle damage. Relief pilots took over from exhausted comrades. The operation had pushed them to their limits, but those limits were far beyond what the Alliance had thought possible. The remaining Alliance ships gathered at the edge of the solar system, their AIs trying to process what had happened. Their tactical computers had no explanation for an enemy that could fight for 3 days straight. Their strategic programs could not compute a defense against a species that simply refused to stop. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Thomas finally allowed himself to relax slightly. The Alliance had learned an important lesson about humanity. They were not just another spacefaring race to be conquered. They were the descendants of persistence hunters, of survivors who had thrived on one of the galaxy's harshest worlds. The battle that became known as the 3-day push marked a turning point in the war. The Alliance would never again underestimate humanity's capacity for sustained combat. More importantly, they began to question whether their initial assessment of humans as dangerous predators had missed something crucial. Humans were not just predators. They were protectors, defenders, and some of the most determined beings in the galaxy. The Alliance Council chamber was unlike anything Commander Reed had ever seen. The room was huge but maintained at 1/3 of Earth's gravity. The alien council members floated in specially designed chairs, their bodies too fragile to handle stronger gravitational forces. Reed stood confidently on the floor, his earthborn body easily handling the light gravity. 3 weeks had passed since Operation Daybreak. The Alliance had finally requested peace talks, but not in the way anyone expected. They didn't just want to end the war. They wanted to understand humanity. More surprisingly, they wanted to offer humans a special place in their galactic community. "We have reviewed the battle data," announced the council leader, speaking through a translator. "Your species has shown capabilities we thought impossible. You turn civilian tools into weapons. You modify your ships during combat. You fight for days without rest. But most importantly, you do all this while trying to minimize casualties on both sides." Reed listened carefully. The council leader was right. Throughout the war, humans had focused on disabling enemy ships rather than destroying them. They had rescued Alliance crew members from damaged vessels. Even during Operation Daybreak, they had given enemy ships the chance to retreat rather than pursuing and destroying them. The Alliance's tactical AI presented its analysis. It showed recordings of human ships helping damaged alien vessels, even in the middle of battle. It displayed data about human medical teams treating injured Alliance crew members with the same care they gave their own people. The council members watched with great interest. "Your species evolved as predators," the council leader continued. "You have strength and endurance that our people can barely comprehend. The AI warned us that this made you dangerous, but we now understand it makes you perfect for something else, protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Images appeared in the chamber, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Peaceful species that had never developed weapons, worlds rich in resources but populated by beings too physically fragile to defend them. Star systems that needed protection from those who would exploit them. "We have technology and knowledge to share," another council member spoke, "but we need those who can use it wisely. Those who are strong enough to fight but choose to protect. Those who understand both war and peace." The alien looked directly at Reed. "We need humans." Reed thought about everything humanity had shown during the war. They had proven they could fight, but they had also demonstrated compassion, creativity, and restraint. They had used their strength not to conquer, but to defend themselves and help others when possible. The Council's offer was unprecedented. Humanity would join the Alliance not as a subjugated species, but as guardians. Their ships would help patrol trade routes. Their soldiers would protect peaceful worlds. Their incredible endurance and adaptability would become a shield for those who needed it. "We misunderstood you," the council leader admitted. Our eyes saw your predator history and assumed you were a threat. But you showed us that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. Being capable of violence doesn't mean being violent. You showed us that true strength lies in how you use your power. Reed looked at the data displays showing the galaxy. So many worlds, so many species, so many possibilities. Humanity had dreamed of reaching the stars, and now they had the chance to do so as protectors rather than conquerors. Their very nature, which the Alliance had first feared, would now help maintain peace across the galaxy. Your people can tolerate environments we find lethal, another council member noted. You can fight for days where we need rest after hours. You can survive situations that would kill our strongest warriors. We need these abilities not for war, but for rescue missions, emergency response, and protecting the defenseless. The council chamber fell silent, waiting for Reed's response. He thought about everything that had happened. The war had started because of fear and misunderstanding, but it could end with something remarkable. A chance for humanity to prove that their strength could be used for the good of all. On behalf of Earth, Reed spoke clearly, his voice carrying in the light gravity. We accept your offer. We will join the Alliance not as conquerors or the conquered, but as protectors. We will use our abilities to defend those who need defense, to rescue those who need rescue, and to show the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength is not our power, but how we choose to use it. The war that began with a warning about human forces ended with a new understanding. Humanity had proved themselves to be exactly what the galaxy needed. A species strong enough to fight, but wise enough to choose peace, capable of surviving anywhere, but dedicated to helping others survive too. The signal that once warned of human forces now became a message of hope. Human protectors were on their way.